so much for being here. Thank you so much for coming and listening to us, and thank you for your curiosity in learning more about the bandura, which is Ukraine's national instrument. And we have a special treat for you today because we have all three builds that are typical to Ukraine for the bandura. Before explaining a little bit more about this instrument, and while everybody starts wandering in and takes their seat, we'd love to musically introduce the bandura to you. This is a piece that is arranged by a Ukrainian-American bandura player, Nick Dejikowski, who lives in Michigan, and he arranged this piece that was originally an orchestral piece, but it's called Bandura Rozmova, or Bandura Conversations. So you can take a listen to see if you can really hear the two banduras speaking to each other musically throughout the piece. Here is Bandura Rozmova. Chernihiv Bandura, which is named after the places it's from, as are both of these other instruments. The bandura he was just playing is a traditional Kharkiv-style bandura, and you might have heard the name Kharkiv in the news lately, which is the city it's from. And then this bandura is from Lviv, and it's a Lvivska bandura. And the next piece we will be playing is a more classical piece. The bandura is a very versatile instrument. It's suited to so many different genres because of its musical capabilities. So the first piece you just heard was more of a folk medley, and this next piece is a classical piece, Song from a Secret Garden by Rolf Loveland. much. So to explain a little bit about the bandura and its history, the early bandura looked a lot more like a kharkiv. It was a little smaller and it had fewer strings on it. And it came about in the first recordings of bandura starting to appear in Ukrainian artwork and Ukrainian folklore was around the 16th and 17th century. And blind minstrels called kobzars would go around all of Ukraine giving the news to the villages. That's how people found out what was happening, was they would take their instrument wherever they went and they would tell the news from the other town. So the bandura has a very long history, and as you can see, it's developed and gained more strings and gained more levers and keys to increase its capabilities of musical genre. And it's also seen Ukraine's brutal history. And in the 1930s and 40s, there were many attempts to wipe out Ukrainian culture, and that includes the bandura. And despite that, like its people, the Ukrainian bandura has really blossomed, and there's a really big resurgence of Ukrainian bandura culture in Ukraine right now, and we're friends with a lot of bandura players, some of whom have actually put down their banduras and instead enlisted in the Ukrainian army to fight for their country and to fight for their culture and for the people that they love. So moving forward, this piece is Oy Khodet Son. It's a very popular and beautiful lullaby, and legend has it that George Gershwin heard a performance of this piece, Oy Khodet Son, at Carnegie Hall. He heard the Koshitz choir singing it, and he heard this piece, and legend has it that he created the beautiful aria Summertime from one of his operas, Porgy and Bess. So see if you can hear that connection through this piece. This is Oy Khodet Son.
Ой, ходить сон.
today. The first is a hymn. It's an ancient hymn, sort of in the style of these dumas that the Puzzars would go around to these villages, telling the news or reciting a prayer. And this specific prayer calls for the Mother Mary to protect Ukraine and its people. This is Через поле широкое.
Afternoon. We have one more piece for you today. This is an English piece for those of us for our friends who do not speak Ukrainian. This is a beautiful Cornish song that one of my friends sang for their graduating recital. I'm a master's student in vocal performance at Bandura Conservatory, and I wanted to thank Stefan, my Bandura duo partner, who came all the way up from Boston. We can definitely take some questions, possibly after our last piece. If you have any questions about the history or the build of the Bandura, we'd be happy to answer your questions. I hope you enjoy this piece as much as we do. This is a piece that's very famous in the Bandura world. This is Homits the Piuth, Echo of the Steppes. And it's by Hori Katasti, who is a very prolific Bandura composer. He is also a diaspora composer. Stefan is a part of the Ukrainian Vendors Chorus of North America, and that is a group that came over from Ukraine after the war, from Germany actually. And Hori Katasti was their conductor for many, many years. And so he created this tradition of passing along the Bandura to its generations, which is how we happened upon it. We grew up going to a Bandura camp in Pennsylvania, in Emlenton, Pennsylvania, of all places, and a camp and a workshop that my mother runs in Connecticut. So that's how we grew up playing the Bandura, and this is one of the pieces that we learned first, I think. Pretty much. Yeah. Every Bandura student has to learn this piece because it's just it's chilling and it's beautiful, and Hori Katasti wrote it to emulate the beautiful sweeping sound of the steppes of Ukraine. So hope you enjoy. be playing at the service tonight at 6 p.m. if you want to hear some more banduras.